Dubs has to go back to his roots. I'm not a Jets fan, I'm not a Giants fan, and neither one of those teams even play in New York. But I'm a New Yorker through and through, despite where my mail gets sent. And I will not stand for the Jets to be dragged through the mud in this way. Not going to happen. So Dante Moore, if you do leave, you should be so lucky to fly the plane.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Who are we looking at? We're looking at SGA because of his availability and consistency. It's Jaylen Brown to do his usage and his leadership. It's Jaylen Brown for how they're playing. It's Cade Cunningham because Detroit's in the top of the East. The MVP talk is going to be wild, and it'll be interesting to watch. MVPs just don't dominate. They survive the season.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Luke, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Get ready. We've got some big football games coming up this weekend. NFL playoffs, national championship on Monday, and in between, lots of NBA to cover. So we'll take care of that on this show, of course, for you. In fact, we're going to have Carlin Gay on the program, talk some National Basketball Association. Sam McQuillan is our guest from Legal Sports Report. We'll have the ratings from NFL Wildcard Weekend with Simon Applebaum. The podcast tomorrow will be televised. Mark Zinno weighs in on some NFL. And guess what? The PGA Tour is about to kick off here for 2026. So you know our golf guy, Brady Cannon, who also covers the NFL, is going to weigh in on some golf picks as well with us. So all that and a whole lot more on this Wednesday edition of the show. So let's get started. And we begin with a new partnership, not a team or organization with a prediction market company, but an individual. And this is Bryson DeChambeau, who's currently on the Live Golf Tour, officially announces a partnership with Kalshi. It's a endorsement deal, which includes TV commercials, social media posts, live appearances, and the launch of market events that he plays in. Remember, DeChambeau currently not on the PGA Tour, and they, of course, have partnerships with sports betting operations. Live Golf sort of operating independently, and so prediction markets now moving to individuals and different sanctions as well. We'll see if Live Golf has something to say about this or whether or not they just simply accept it in the end. Yesterday, after we got off the air, did not expect to see this piece of news, which is the hot topic in all of sports right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers, for the first time in 2 decades, are looking for a new head coach. A third of the league looking for a new head coach, by the way. Mike Tomlin, after being eliminated from the playoffs, says that he has had enough. 19 seasons is done in Pittsburgh. Never had a losing season, 8-time AFC North champion, and as of right now, no statement as to where Tomlin may end up. There are some that are speculating that he could go to TV. Others speculate maybe he just leaves for a couple of years. We honestly have no idea, but the money will be out there for him if he decides to pursue another head coaching gig. No surprise in Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni had to make the tough decision of dismissing his offensive coordinator, and the Eagles have had a new offensive coordinator for 6 straight years. This time it's Kevin Patullo being dismissed as offensive coordinator. They had a really rough season on offense. Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti wants a new contract for Lamar Jackson by March, We don't know if he's going to end up getting it. He also mentioned that it's unlikely Tomlin would be the next head coach in Baltimore. Kind of a funny question there. Also, Marcus Freeman. We knew this kind of a month ago, but he's going to stay at Notre Dame despite interest from the National Football League. So Freeman staying at Notre Dame. All right, in the NBA last night, finally, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder figured out how to beat the San Antonio Spurs. It took all season. They finally did it. 119-98 the final. SGA had 34 points. The Thunder were 8.5-point favorites. Not only did they cover the spread, it was a blowout. As I said, OKC had lost to the Spurs 4 straight games. They finally got a win in this one, dating back to last year. Here's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander after the win, talking about playing good defense and getting the W.
We did a good job of keeping them in front of us, whether it would be in transition, whether it be in half court, just keeping our body in between their body as they drive and make plays and try to create for each other, and then they had to score over top of us. That's always a good recipe defensively.
You said something about you guys sort of not, I guess, staying disciplined towards executing the game plan. What specifically did he mean there?
So that was our strength. On the previous 3 games we played against them, and we couldn't repeat today. Even though, of course, they came prepared, but I don't think they changed too many things. They trusted their own identity, And specifically what he means is, I'm not going to get into too many details, but early communication, being clear with our intentions, our placement. So I guess you could say we were a little bit, I don't know. I mean, we didn't respect the game plan.
29 points from Bam Adebayo. The Miami Heat needed a big win. They got it yesterday against the Suns, 127-101. It's been a 121, excuse me. It's been a tough go for Eric Spoelstra and company, so he naturally feels a little relieved to get a win.
Forced us to show our resolve collectively, and I thought Bam was a massive part of that. He forced those 2 turnovers when we were kind of stuck in the mud, and that was like a defensive player of the year type performance throughout the course of the game. He was doing everything on pick and roll, whether he was zoning on pick and rolls, staying in the basket, or switching. Sometimes not switching, getting guys through. He was kind of just orchestrating our whole defense, and then coming back to rebound. And then, of course, the big threes down the stretch. The ball found the right karma. I thought he earned it, to have a great night. He just really did. How he was just pouring so much of his effort and intensity into the game. And he hit those 2 clutch threes. And it was just awesome to see it.
Maybe a sign of the future for the Los Angeles Lakers was noting that they were big underdogs in the early afternoon yesterday. There was speculation that maybe Luka or LeBron would not play. Both guys played yesterday, and both guys had big games. LA beats Atlanta 141-116. LeBron, 31 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds, arguably his biggest game of the season, and said Father Time can keep calling, but he seems to not be answering.
I would never disrespect the basketball gods. I understand that it's a real thing, and I would never disrespect the basketball gods when it comes to playing this game. So I put the time and the effort and the commitment in it, mentally, physically, spiritually. Every time I hit the floor or I'm at practice or whatever the case may be, trying to set the example for my teammates and the younger generation that's watching me or watched me throughout my career. I mean, my son is right over there, so I can't afford to cheat the game ever, and I would never do that, and I got to set an example for him over there too. So, as Jay-Z would say, if you can't respect that, your whole perspective is whack. Maybe you'll love me when I fade to black.
All right, fair enough, LeBron. Thanks. Minnesota beats Milwaukee 139-106. It's been a rough year for Giannis and the Bucks. Giannis seen booing the fans yesterday, oddly enough. We'll talk about that later in the show. All right, UConn gets a big win. They've been one of the best teams in the country this season, beating Seton Hall by a final of 69-64. They're now 17-1 on this early part of the season as conference play is underway. And Tarris Reed is playing great basketball. 21 points, 9 rebounds for Reed in this one. Dan Hurley certainly happy that his team is on the right foot. We got a good press conference from him, which is unusual last night.
I mean, we shot. That's a top 10 defense in the country. So I mean, we came in here. We shot 51% from the field. Obviously, we had some trouble, versus their pressure, because their pressure is hard to deal with over the course of a 40-minute game. So, you just try to stay positive, because you knew it was going to be a battle, But we did a good job of building a big enough of a cushion by the level that we played at, that we're able to take care of the ball well enough, make free throws, and just get out of here with a really good road win.
Michigan State blows out Indiana. Final score 81-60. Kansas beats number 2 Iowa State 84-63. The final significant win for Kansas. Iowa State, one of the best teams in the country this season. Also, one trade in Major League Baseball yesterday. If you were following me on social media, you may have seen me break it. The Yankees and Marlins agree to a deal that sends Ryan Weathers, starting pitcher, left-handed, from Miami to New York. And in return, the Marlins get 4 prospects back, including Dylan Lewis, a young outfielder who the Marlins certainly have high hopes for. 3 other players that the Marlins will be seeing in the future as the Major League Baseball offseason continues to trickle in. Maybe we'll get some signings this week or next. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. We'll dive into the latest in the NBA as our friend Carlin Gay is back in the house talking some hoops. We'll be right back with more NewsWire after this.
Who are we looking at? We're looking at SGA because of his availability and consistency. It's Jaylen Brunson due to his usage and his leadership. It's Jaylen Brown for how they're playing. It's Cade Cunningham because Detroit's in the top of the East. The MVP talk is going to be wild, and it'll be interesting to watch. MVPs just don't dominate. They survive the season.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Carlin Gay in the house to review the NBA games from last night, maybe get some picks for tonight as well. Carlin, I'm glad that you were not on the show yesterday, because if I was going to review this game between Oklahoma City and San Antonio, which I did, I thought for sure that the Spurs would at least cover this game, given the fact that they have been the kryptonite for the Thunder. But man, I was wrong. So let's get into it here. What happened last night to the Spurs? 119-98. I know OKC has been doing this to everybody all season long, but this is the one team they haven't been able to do it to. I'm sure you have a better answer to it than me. Why did the Thunder finally figure out a way to not just beat the Spurs, but blow them out?
I don't know if I have a better answer other than they're the champs. Like the defending champs needed something to get up for in the middle of a long season when they're really just looking forward to the playoffs and being healthy, and they found one. Everyone thought that, the San Antonio Spurs team, which is very much up and coming, and they have Victor Wembanyama, and they're also getting back healthy. And they, as you said, the Thunder's kryptonite, and the Thunder heard all that, and they wanted to put that to bed and remind everybody they're the champs for a reason. They're a pretty good basketball team when they actually play, and they did that for 48 minutes yesterday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came out right out of the gate, and he had one of those games that said, "You know what? We're going to put you to bed early, and we're going to sit out the fourth quarter," which is exactly what they did. And they reminded the Spurs and everybody else, including you and I. And I'm glad I wasn't on the show either, because I would have picked the Spurs. I'm glad that that I didn't have that on my resume, but they came out and they shut it down. And right now, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the field right now. When you look at who could win the NBA championship.
So also yesterday, when we did the show yesterday, the Hawks were big favorites, or not big, but significant favorites. Anything more than 2 or 3 is somewhat significant over the Lakers. I found that odd because I thought, okay, well, that must mean somebody's not playing for LA. Well, lo and behold, both the big guys played for LA, Carlin, and they end up taking care of business against the Hawks. And so I guess the bigger question that I would have for you is, with LeBron playing and with Luka playing both in this game, and we know that load management is a thing in the NBA, do you get the sense here that maybe LA feeling some pressure and saying to themselves, hey, look, these plans to sit guys, we may need to scrap that, or we're going to fall too far behind? Because I know JJ Redick has been not too shy about disclosing some of the issues that the team has had this season.
He has been an entertaining coach. I don't know if everyone has been in tune to all his press conferences, but if you want to hear the truth about the LA Lakers, you don't have to go any further than JJ Redick. He's been giving you the real, which is not, what most head coaches do. But to answer your question about these two players, and LeBron and Luka, they really haven't played that much together, right? Like the trade happened and everybody lost their minds. It hasn't even been a calendar year since that happened. And when it did happen, LeBron wasn't in the lineup. Then he eventually came back. They got bounced early, and now they're kind of going through the regular season together. And LeBron didn't start the season. Luka was out of the lineup as well. They're still trying to figure out how to play basketball with each other, and you're starting to see that a little bit. And hopefully they can start to gel. The one thing that I would say about the Lakers, right? Like, if you're looking long term for this basketball team, they are a great offensive team. They're going to have great offensive nights like last night, where they can score, 141 points because they have two of the top 10 players in the game. But then they have nights where they're going to give up 120, it's not a situation in the NBA right now where you can outscore your opponent and be a contender in the NBA. We'll get it done in the regular season, but once you get to the playoffs and you go up against better defenses, you're going to have to find a way to stop some of these better offenses. And right now, the Lakers desperately need someone that actually cares about defense. And while Marcus Smart is that guy, should be that guy, he's not Marcus Smart anymore. He is the artist formerly known as Marcus Smart. Mm-hmm. And DeAndre Ayton, he is not a great defender, and it hasn't been throughout his entire career. So if you're a Laker fan, what you're looking for is a trade at the deadline to figure out how to get more players that are going to care about defense, because your two best players in LeBron and Luka Doncic, I want to say they care about it, but the signs out there don't seem to show that they do.
20-1 Lakers right now to win the NBA championship. The team that really, honestly, in the last month has probably been the most impressive to me has been Denver, just hanging around, win-loss, which is a lot more than anybody would have thought, playing without the best player arguably in the NBA, in the Joker, but they're still hanging around in their chase for the Western Conference. Now, Carlin, let's get to some games tonight.
Hold on, I'm going to give you a sneaky good team here, Craig, that I've seen play, and I know people are going to say, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. The Philadelphia 76ers are slowly starting to get healthy, and they're slowly starting to figure it out. And if they can stay healthy, you can knock on wood or wherever you want to knock. If they can stay healthy, that is a team that could cause some problems in the Eastern Conference. So if you're looking for one of those sneaky teams right now around the midseason to put some money on and say maybe they make it to the NBA Finals and you never know what happens, that's the Sixers.
Yeah, East wide open. I don't think there's any doubt. Speaking of the Sixers, they play tonight, and it's basically a pick'em game, because not that the 76ers, who you mentioned, are playing so well. It's just that Cleveland, I don't know what has gone on with them this season. It's a complete role reversal from a year ago. I got nothing to point my finger at here, but certainly there's a lot of eyes looking deeply at that team and that coaching staff right now, Carlin.
Yeah, and they're having a head scratcher of a season because I think a lot of people expected them to be near the top of the Eastern Conference, and it just hasn't been able to be the case. And it's not like their individual players are playing bad. You look at the seasons that Donovan Mitchell's having. You look at what their backcourt is also having, and Darius Garland. They're having good. They're putting up good numbers. It's just they're not doing it consistently together on the same night, and it's been causing problems. And the main thing for me, what Cleveland has always been, even through the LeBron James era, is they've been a really good home team. That really hasn't been the case this year. They've dropped some games that you don't expect them to drop at home. So, I would take the Sixers in this one. The Sixers, again, like I said, they're slowly starting to get healthy and they're slowly starting to figure things out. They had a good showing against the Raptors the other night. After losing to the Raptors in that baseball series that we'll call in the NBA now, but I do have the Sixers coming forward tonight with victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right, throw one more at you, and then we'll let you go for the day. We've got the Knicks taking on the Kings. Knicks 11.5-point favorites, total 230.5. I will be sleeping when this game ends. When I wake up, who will cover the spread?
I'm going to go with a Knick win here, but I will say that total is going to be a little lower. Those legs out there on the West Coast for the New York Knicks, I don't know if they're going to be up there getting those threes to be able to fall. So watch for the Knicks legs. It's going to be an ugly game if you do stay up for it. Probably under 30% shooting from three-point range for the New York Knicks, but they win the game. Scrap it out.
Under 30% that I'll be awake. Thanks, Carlin. Have a really good night. Appreciate it. Carlin will be watching. That's why we have him, and then he'll break down the games for us. All right, we'll be back with the SportsGrid Sound Off previewing Monday night's college football champion.
Who are we looking at? We're looking at SGA because of its availability and consistency. It's Jalen Brunson doing his usage and his leadership. It's Jaylen Brown for how they're playing. It's Cade Cunningham because Detroit's in the top of the East. The MVP talk is going to be wild, and it'll be interesting to watch. MVPs just don't dominate. They survive the season.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I do live in an area where this weekend I am going to be seeing a lot of Indiana Hoosiers fans near where I live because one of the team hotels is very close to my house. It's the national championship game Monday night between Miami and Indiana. We got a preview for you here in the SportsGrid Sound Off. And the line, by the way, in this game has jumped. Opened up at 7.5, now up to 8.5, and totals on the rise too at 47.5. This opened up at 46. When Miami takes on Indiana in their home stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's the national championship game. Let's get a preview and start off with the Hurricanes side of the football. Mario Cristobal, who's no stranger to South Florida, coached at FIU, played in South Florida, now the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, stating that he takes absolutely nothing for granted, including the center stage on Monday night.
I think we're all very similar. We all love football, absolutely love it. We also understand the importance of being a good person and really embrace the concept of gratitude. In a day and age where things move fast, people move fast. And then what we found out early on, in fact, it was a year to the day where this team first got together. And then a week from now, we get to play one last time together. And I think early on in that process, a year ago in January, this team started figuring out, everyone has hope in January, right? When you start the initial process of a new season. But it was more than hope. I think we recognized early on this is a unique group of individuals and that the work ethic was through the roof. The appetite for the grind was legit and real. So I think because we're like that, because we don't mind getting pushed, because we're not easily offended, right? Correction and confrontation in a positive way, right? Truth telling is a staple of our program, and we appreciate that. We appreciate feedback and growth and development. I think that's what drives us, whether we completely agree on something, whether it's a perfect day or whether it's a challenging day. We all know that we're in it for the right reasons.
Meanwhile, Indiana's playing for a national championship after being in the doldrums of one of the worst teams in college football over the last 30 or 40 years. Curt Cignetti is the hot name right now in college football, and all indications, despite there being 8 or 9 job openings in the NFL, unless they're waiting for Cignetti, doing a heck of a job. Seems like he'll stay at Indiana. But the pressure is always on, and as Cignetti told the media, as of right now, not only do you have to consider winning once every few years, the pressure is on to win every season.
Yeah, I don't look at it that way. I think in college football nowadays, you got to win every year. With social media the way it is, the pressure to be successful, you got to put together a team that's ready to compete for championships every single year. So now, the more success you have, the better you're going to recruit from the high school ranks. And those guys will develop, and most of them will redshirt, but some will play as a freshman. We're always going to bring in 20, give or take 1 or 2 high school guys. I think we brought in 23 this year, and some of those guys are ready to help us right away in some capacity. But the portal guys, you're bringing them in because you have a critical need where you have to fill a hole on your football team. So, we've been successful doing it. College football's changed a lot, obviously, still changing. You got to adapt, improvise, be light on your feet, if you're going to survive. And that's where I think all that recruiting coordinator experience I had in the past, too, as well as coaching, probably benefited me.
Let's take a look at the updated line right now over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Miami, 7.5-point underdogs to start. They've moved to 8.5 right now, which is sort of stunning considering that the Hurricanes have been in or won every game here in the college football playoffs, and even just before that at the end of the season. They tend to play close games, regardless if they're favored or underdogs. Maybe that will be the case going into Monday night. We certainly will see. Can't wait for this big weekend of both college and pro football coming up again. Okay, coming up next, it is the same story that's been told for years since sports betting got legalized. Will the state of Missouri eventually go up online for people to bet, or Mississippi, excuse me. Thank you, Frank. Mississippi. Will Mississippi go back online? When they legalized sports betting, I went to Mississippi, went to the casinos because sports betting was legal and I thought it would be fun. I never thought 6 years later they still would not be able to bet online. We'll touch on that with Sam McQuillan next. Don't go away.
we looking at? We're looking at SGA because of its availability and consistency. It's Jalen Brunson doing his usage and his leadership. It's Jaylen Brown for how they're playing. It's Cade Cunningham because Detroit's in the top of the East. The MVP talk is going to be wild, and it'll be interesting to watch. MVPs just don't dominate. They survive the season.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with our friend Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report, who joins us now to talk about the latest in sports betting, news, notes, and information. And we don't start off with prediction markets for a change, but we do start off with this recurring story that just keeps popping up every year, and I don't get it, Sam. It is the state of Mississippi. I believe I said Missouri in the last segment. Made a mistake there. Mississippi. So, Sam, when Mississippi legalized sports betting, it was a novelty. It was one of the very first in-person retail shops that you could go bet on sports outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. And so I remember going there at the time thinking to myself, wow, like when they get online in a few months or a year, this could be the mecca of the South as far as sports betting is concerned. And they got lapped by everybody. Is it these hotels that they basically don't want to see this happen? Because other than that, what is the roadblock here?
Yeah, Mississippi, we're, I don't know how many years into sports betting now. Like you mentioned, Craig, one of the first states to legalize sports betting, in part because it has about 30 casinos. And it used to be when, states were starting to legalize sports betting that the ones with a lot of casinos, the New Jerseys of the world, the Mississippis, they were kind of the ones who embraced legalizing it because first it was done in person. It would attract a lot of people from other states, certainly around Mississippi that didn't have betting for a long time. Alabama, Georgia is obviously one. Louisiana had been a holdout for a very long time. But then once everything started to go online and the industry really started to shift from just in-person casinos, and you saw how much money was being put in online sports betting, the very reason that you had a reason to legalize sports betting in the first place, those casinos, they kind of became a roadblock in terms of, now legalizing something online and having competitors. There's been a lot made in the past about, whether that would steal jobs from casinos, whether people would be more inclined if sports betting is legal online to just stay home and not go to the casino. I think there's been a lot of evidence we've seen out there since those claims have been put out that that's actually not the case, and people like going to the casino in general to bet, and people like being able to bet more at home. They just kind of bet more. It doesn't kind of take the activity away. But in Mississippi, I think because you have so many casinos, the big ones, the Caesars of the world, the ones that are partnered with DraftKings, they have less power. They have less sway. They're not able to influence the legislature as easily because you have smaller casinos out there, which are worried if it gets legalized online, maybe we won't get a cut of the revenue. This is now, I think, the 6th year that this is being tried in the state. You have a bill from Representative Jay McKnight, which would allow all the 30 casinos to partner with a sportsbook for a very low tax rate. It actually hasn't been hard to get this passed out of the House. Each of the last 2 years, a bill has progressed in the House, but it's been the Senate where we've really seen it tied up. So that'll be the case again this year. If it can get through the Senate, it can probably become legal, and you could have online sports betting pretty quickly in Mississippi. But again, it's been the roadblock in the Senate with their casino interests. We'll see if anything changes this time around. The farthest they've ever gotten is 2023. They passed a bill to study online sports betting and figure out how they would do it if they ever were. It's obviously been some time since then, so we'll see if just time has changed things or if it's kind of the same story as always. But one of the few states we'll be watching in terms of online sports betting this year for sure.
Meanwhile, not Kalshi, but Canby. People probably would get confused with this a little bit. They follow betting trends very closely, how things are going all across the country. And Sam, over at LegalSportsReport.com, you can read more about this article that Sam has posted here. What would you make of their report here about parlays and sort of where things are headed in the future, what they're tracking?
Yeah, Canby's one of those betting technology companies that has worked with sports books in the past to power, the actual apps that we use to bet on sports. So it's always really interesting to get a look at their report. They published their 2025 sports betting trends report, which, to no surprise, as you alluded to, Craig, shows you that parlays are up. I think 83% of the most engaged bettors place at least one parlay, and then 44% of the least engaged bettors do not place a parlay. So not only are parlays an engine for sports books to become more profitable and have higher holds because they're much higher margin bets for the sports books, we're also seeing evidence in this report that they keep people engaged, they keep people betting, they make it more of an entertainment factor when you're talking about being glued into the game. There's always that kind of narrative about being able to predict what's going to happen in a game, which you can do with parlays, and we've certainly seen parlays kind of transform Sportsbook's profit engine as well. Some more interesting stats from the report. Parlays as a percentage of pregame bets have increased over the last 6 straight years. So not only are the people who are more engaged and betting more doing it, it's overall just going up in general. You had about 50% of all pregame bets on last year's Super Bowl 59, were parlays, which is up from 4% in 2020. So it's about a 5-year difference, but it's a huge increase. It just shows you that not only have people been betting it more, but sportsbooks have really been pushing these bets as well. Last Super Bowl, I think we might talk about it again this year. Who knows who's going to play in it? But last Super Bowl, it was the favorite won, and everyone thought the sportsbooks got hammered, the over hit, and then it actually turned out because people had bet so many parlays that the sportsbooks actually had a really good day. Some of them their best day ever. So I think it'll be more of the same story heading into 2026. The NBA, they talked about a lot in the report as well, with player props really being the big differentiator there, not just for parlays, but people who bet player props tend to bet almost 3.5 times as many bets as any other bettor in the NBA. It's a huge sport for Canby. It's a huge sport that sportsbooks are trying to grow in general, and I think they're going to try to mirror a lot of the growth they did in football and bring it over to the NBA, where people are obviously betting parlays a lot, or player props rather. So it's how do we make that into more parlay packages, and how do we keep pushing that down bettors' throats, because it seems like they seem to like it.
I find this article curious here that you have posted at Legal Sports Report, that sports betting is expected to grow in this coming year in 2026. I guess if I was to press further, Sam, for folks that haven't read your article, is in what way will sports betting grow? Because in the United States, outside of Missouri and then more recently North Carolina, there really have not been new markets that have opened up legally. So is this factoring in prediction markets? Is there something that I'm potentially missing here? I know that sports betting is insatiable and people are going to bet on sports, but how could there be a significant growth without a new state or a new market opening up to sports betting operators?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think the answer is honestly, despite all the hubbub about prediction markets cannibalizing sports betting, despite the worry about running out of states, we almost have 40 states where sports betting is legal. At some point, you're going to get to all 50 or at least close to it. Despite all those worries, the industry is really showing no signs of slowing down, particularly when you look at the hold that sports betting operators are doing and the handle growth as well. Handle has kind of gone up every year. It's slowed down a little bit over the past couple of years, but in the meantime, while it's happened, sports betting operators have increased their margins from about, historically, it used to be they would hold about 8% in all bets. Now some are holding up to 14%, 13%, with goals to keep increasing it. And they've been able to show investors how they can do that and how they've been able to do that and demonstrate it over the last couple of years, like we just talked about with parlays, with live betting certainly on the rise as well. That is one segment that I think is going to be a huge driver of this growth that Truist is projecting this year, where sports betting and online gaming together are projected to go 14% up from last year. One of the big reasons I think is live betting, because it's higher margin bets for the sports book. We've seen statistically that they hold much higher on that as well. It hadn't been something that they really invested in over the last couple of years when sports betting was really all in its expansion phase and new states, like you mentioned with Missouri. Now that they have less of those to worry about, it's more about how do we hone in on the growth and squeeze more out of our customers in existing states, which is something I think the sports books have really demonstrated they've been able to do, even with, like you mentioned, the prediction markets coming in fantasy. These are now companies that have their own prediction markets as well, so they don't have to worry about as much losing out in states where they can't be. And in the meantime, they'll do what they do best, which is, sports betting revenue and, beating the customer.
Great stuff as always, Sam. We'll catch up with you later in the week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Yep. Thanks, Craig.
Up next, the numbers are in, and the ratings are off the charts for the National Football League's Wild Card Weekend. Simon Applebaum shares those numbers.
Okay, Dubs has to go back to his roots. I'm not a Jets fan, I'm not a Giants fan, and neither one of those teams even play in New York. But I'm a New Yorker through and through, despite where my mail gets sent. And I will not stand for the Jets to be dragged through the mud in this way. Not gonna happen. So Dante Moore, if you do leave, you should be so lucky to fly the plane.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Who are we looking at? We're looking at SGA because of its availability and consistency. It's Jalen Brunson doing his usage and his leadership. It's Jaylen Brown for how they're playing. It's Cade Cunningham because Detroit's in the top of the East. The MVP talk is going to be wild, and it'll be interesting to watch. MVPs just don't dominate. They survive the season.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to check in with Simon Applebaum. The podcast tomorrow will be televised because we've got some numbers in from the National Football League and some streaming numbers as well. Simon, great to have you back. As always here on NewsWire. And so Super Wild Card Weekend is in the books. 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, 1 game on Monday night. And to no surprise, the numbers are pretty off the charts, aren't they?
They are absolutely, Craig. And by the way, this is not counting the Monday night game that was carried on ABC and ESPN. Right now, the overall number is 32.7 million people watch. That's the average, not counting Monday Night Football, and that is already up 16% from last year. And if you are the NFL and your Prime Video, you are especially happy because Prime Video's game, that was the Packers-Bears game with a lot of the brouhaha over, are we going to have to pay for this? Well, guess what? It had 31 million people watching. That is the most ever to watch a game on a mega content service. It actually breaks the record from last year by Netflix. And that, incidentally, by the way, was up 40+% from last year. So if you are Prime Video, you're popping the champagne. And if you're Roger Goodell in the NFL front office, you may be thinking, hey, maybe we should, give Thursday Night Football better games this coming year. And we may even try maybe to go after a divisional game on Prime Video or Netflix or another mega content service. Fox, by the way, did even better. 41 million for their game in the wild card. Believe it or not, the lowest rated so far in terms of viewership was NBC's Sunday Night Football game, 28.9 million. That was even with last year. So far, it's up, up, up. NBC even. We'll see what happens with the Monday night game factored in. However, bad news on the college football semifinals on ESPN. Both games were down. The Ole Miss-Miami game, the close of the two, that was down 11% from a year ago. And the other game, Indiana beating Oregon, down 16%. That is not good news, even though right now, going into the finals game this coming Monday night with Miami, Indiana on ESPN Solo, it is even. The college football playoffs overall are even with last year. However, there's already a lot of scuttlebutt going on. Is like, maybe the reason why the semifinals were down and down a lot is because they weren't played on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day at the latest, which a lot of people think would be a better way to do the semifinals. So I think there's going to be a lot of counter-offering about the idea whether they go to a keep 12-team playoff or go to a 16 or 24 has been showcased in a number of like front office sports and awful announcing lately that they are going to look at the schedule of these games, the semifinals, and see whether they should put them back on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Yeah, Friday night's game also, the reason maybe why it was down a lot more than Thursday nights is just simply because that game was horrible, Simon. The game was over in the first 5 minutes of the game. I can't imagine that anybody was watching when they were down like 35-7 in like 5 seconds. All right, so let's get to Fanatics here. Some breaking news here, as not only are they in the sports memorabilia service and the sports card service and the sports betting service, now they're entering into the television production news as well. Let's get to the latest there.
Well, it is a very deep dive into TV production and also live events. They want to do it all. They want to do sports programming, scripted, unscripted series. They want to do documentary specials. They want to do athlete profiles. And they also want to do live events. And this is something that has been looked at actually for about 6 months to a year of doing it. It's a joint venture with OBB Media, which is, by the way, a Sports Emmy Award-winning venture. They're also working on a Kevin Durant series for Netflix, bio documentary series. And the way it's going to work is you're going to see things off the bat. Starting in March, Fox is going to present a flag football live event from Saudi Arabia. Tom Brady may, in fact, be part of it as his effort to try to maybe gear up for a role in the flag football competition in the 2028 Summer Olympic Games. So Fox is going to carry that live from Saudi Arabia. That'll be the first Fanatics thing. They're going to co-produce the ESPY Awards for the very first time. That'll be in the summer. They'll have a deal with Major League Baseball to do all sorts of programming. And they also have a deal to do the World Baseball Classic as a multi-part documentary series, showcasing the athletes, showcasing the games, and what leads up to whatever the result will be. They've also doing a thing with WWE, with their podcast, with their YouTube channel. They're trying to put together a YouTube series similar to the Braun Strowman USA show, Everything But the Menu, that was on this past fall. And they are also doing work with the LA Olympics on 2028, including a theatrical film. So there's a lot of things they're working on, a lot of irons in the fire. And like I said, it's not just going to be live events and unscripted programming. It's going to be scripted programming as well.
With the end of MASN, Mid-Atlantic Sports Network, the Washington Nationals, Simon, announced today, as you know, that they are going direct to consumer and going to Major League Baseball Productions. Their regional network is no more. Main Street Sports, in full transparency, last season, I was an employee of Main Street Sports with my work for the FanDuel Sports Network for the Miami Marlins. So full transparency as we enter this next topic of conversation. Simon, the Marlins, the Rays, many other broadcast teams, NBA, NHL, are all up in arms right now because of the fact that Main Street Sports apparently may not be broadcasting anymore. Their regional sports networks could potentially come to an end if DAZN or Fubo or some other company doesn't step in and take them over, or maybe even renegotiating. It's a very complicated situation, Simon, but the floor is yours on this subject. I'll let you get into it.
What an incredible turnaround, Craig, from last year when it looked like that Main Street Sports and the reconstitution of it, also bringing Norby Williamson from ESPN to develop a national wraparound programming for the service. It looked like they got their act together. And now it looks like it is getting to be blown apart and blown at the bits. The DAZN deal is off. Fubo may be a possibility of salvaging that venture. And if they don't get a deal with Fubo or somebody else, it looks like all of the Major League Baseball, NHL, and NBA teams that have signed on to do programming are going to pull it out. These networks are going to be falling apart, and you're going to see them do deals with either smart TV sets and device makers, with the likes maybe of a Roku, and perhaps also broadcast television. So within a matter of, let's say, 6 to 9 months, if there's no deal with Fubo or somebody else, you will see basically no regional sports networks between the East Coast and the West Coast.
I thought you were going to say 6 to 9 days, Simon. I think that may be more realistic than months, but that's just
maybe.
Me. All right, Simon. Thanks again for coming on Newswire. I'm hoping for the best there. Believe me that this gets worked out. Affects me directly. Thanks again, Simon. Have a great rest of your week. Appreciate it.
You got it too, Craig. Take care.
All right, Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Simon and I will chop up what we can expect in the upcoming Super Bowl next week here on the show. We'll be back with more right after this. Don't go away.
OK Dubs has to go back to his roots. I'm not a Jets fan, I'm not a Giants fan, and neither one of those teams even play in New York. But I'm a New Yorker through and through, despite where my mail gets sent. And I will not stand for the Jets to be dragged through the mud in this way. Not gonna happen. So Dante Moore, if you do leave, you should be so lucky to fly the plane.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Who are we looking at? We're looking at SGA because of its availability and consistency. It's Jalen Brunson doing his usage and his leadership. It's Jaylen Brown for how they're playing. It's Cade Cunningham because Detroit's in the top of the East. The MVP talk is going to be wild, and it'll be interesting to watch. MVPs just don't dominate. They survive the season.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Luke, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Back to Newswire here on SportsGrid. Time to check back at our G2E recap and highlights from the conference back in October. This time we've got Hillary McAfee going one-on-one with the founder and CEO of Audit, Matt Bressler. So much data and tech out there, hard to even keep up. But let's check in with this one-on-one interview to find out what the latest in sports betting data brings with Matt Bressler. Here's Hillary.
We're here with Matt Bressler, the CEO and founder of Audit. and you have a new B2C opportunity. You're typically a B2B brand, and now you're switching over to be direct to consumer. What is that looking like for you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the last week, we launched our new sports betting discovery app called BetFlow. Basically, we wanted to really showcase and harness our really powerful data feeds that we've built at Audit. So these are statistics, weather, all of the kind of interrelated metadata you could think of about teams and players and sports, and to create a really cohesive and accessible sports betting discovery experience for both sports bettors that are interested in stats and historical data and making, data-driven decisions, but also to usher in new opportunities and increased accessibility for sports betting for people that are more relationships-based or are more interested in the who and sort of the storylines there, and rather than on, the stats and what is the most likely to profit. And so we've just launched BetFlow. It covers over 100 global leagues. And no matter what you're interested in, you can find really awesome bets in just a few taps.
So this is so fascinating. So if I would love to get more like in the weeds when it comes to what I would bet on, like the Super Bowl bets we hear of that are just like kind of outrageous because they're just atypical to what is typically the lineup, like you're saying, like just based on the stats and based on like who's going to win this playoff game or whatever. So you're saying it's much more nuanced. There's so many more options there. What drew you to like make these choices? Did you have any other influence on that?
Yeah, there's this discrepancy between being in the industry and I think a lot of what people in the industry talk about. I think in this industry, we're all deeply passionate probably about sports, and we know that very, very well, and that's likely why we got into this, at least for some of us on the sports betting side. Mm-hmm. I think that for me, as we were looking to harness our data and build out a direct-to-consumer product, I couldn't ignore the discrepancy between what everyone in the industry was saying, that, players want to make smart picks and they want to, evolve and get into plus EV and arbitrage, and what all my friends do, which is they do it for entertainment, they do it socially, they have no expectation that they will ever make $1 from it, but it's fun to them. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what we wanted to lean into, is not to put on airs. Like we take our data very, very seriously, so our consumers don't need to, right? We want them to have fun, whatever that is, and they may win some bets. Like there's some very powerful predictive data in there, but ultimately the goal is for them to have the sports betting experience that they want to have, not to kind of sell them a dream that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What are some very obscure things that you can bet on?
It's largely the context with which you can choose bets.
Okay.
So, we have everything from team mascots, right? We've seen team mascots globally that are cucumbers, that are Karl Marx, that everything under the sun you can think of. And we've kind of made that accessible and translated into emojis. So a very novel feature that we have is an emoji to parlay converter. We have around 1 million data points tying a team or player to an emoji or string of emojis. That might be anything from like a dog emoji because the team mascot is a dog, to like the color red because the team jersey number is red. And what that looks like for the users, they can choose up to 5 emojis randomly, or ones that they choose. And almost instantaneously, we are showing them the most relevant parlay that is like interconnected to those emojis that they can then, in a couple taps, go play, directly place at their favorite sports book.
So you launched this new app, mm-hmm. and then what's the next tier for you guys over the next year? What's the goal for you guys over the next year?
We really want to get the word out. We really want to expand this. We've built the product that's built for the masses, built to be accessible and fun, and we just need to make sure that it gets out to those people for them to properly experience. And so that looks like 2 things. One is marketing, and the other one is raising an additional investment in order to facilitate and get that proper reach out there.
Well, you've come to the right place for both of those at G2E this year. So yeah, I just wish you the best of luck with that this week.
Thank you.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
They have one more win than Chicago, and they literally beat Chicago in Week 17, and yet the Niners are on the road and the Bears are at home. Why? Because of an outdated rule that says, well, winning your division is the holy grail. Rewarding an 8-win division winner with a home playoff game is like giving the corner office to the guy who won the office fantasy pool instead of the guy who actually closed the accounts all year.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to open up Pandora's box, but I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It is a college football championship for the ages, especially when you consider the two teams that haven't sniffed the college football championship in a long time getting ready to go head-to-head on Monday night. Miami will take on Indiana, and the Hoosiers have been one of the worst teams in the history of college football. Don't tell that to them. The last couple of years have been one of the best. Let's start off, though, with the University of Miami playing in their home building at Hard Rock Stadium. Mario Cristobal knows just how important it is for the fan base to get that victory. And you have to wonder from his perspective in particular if the moment is the biggest one in the history of his career.
I think we're all very similar, you know. We all love football, absolutely love it. We also understand the importance of being a good person and really embrace the concept of gratitude. You know, in a day and age where things move fast, people move fast. And then what we found out early on, in fact, it was a year to the day where this team first got together. And then a week from now, we get to play one last time together. And I think early on in that process, a year ago in January, this team started figuring out, you know, everyone has hope in January, right? When you start the initial process of a new season. But it was more than hope. I think we recognized early on this is a unique group of individuals and that the work ethic was through the roof. The appetite for the grind was legit and real. So I think because we're like that, because we don't mind getting pushed, because we're not easily offended, right? Correction and confrontation in a positive way, right? Truth telling is a staple of our program, and we appreciate that. We appreciate feedback and growth and development. I think that's what drives us, whether we completely agree on something, whether it's a perfect day or whether it's a challenging day. We all know that we're in it for the right reasons.
Meanwhile, Indiana, looking at Kurt Cignetti and the success that he had, you would think that this guy would say, okay, we are playing for a championship. We can, take a break. Cignetti says you got to win every year now in college football.
Yeah, I don't look at it that way. I think in college football nowadays, you got to win every year. With social media the way it is, the pressure to be successful, you got to put together a team that's ready to compete for championships every single year. So now the more success you have, the better you're going to recruit from the high school ranks. And those guys will develop, and most of them will redshirt, but some will play as a freshman. We're always going to bring in 20, give or take one or two. High school guys, I think we brought in 23 this year. And some of those guys are ready to help us right away in some capacity. But the portal guys, you're bringing them in because you have a critical need where you have to fill a hole on your football team. So we've been successful doing it. College football's changed a lot, obviously, still changing. You got to adapt, improvise, be light on your feet, if you're going to survive. And that's where I think all that recruiting coordinator experience I had in the past too, as well as coaching, probably benefited me.
And also, right now, the point spread benefits Indiana. I mean, I guess not. If you think about it, kind of benefits Miami getting 8.5 points in a national championship game coming up on Monday night. All right, let's bring in Mark Zinno from SportsGrid to go over the latest odds in the National Football League. Mark, great to have you back here on the show, and let's dive right in. We've got a great matchup coming up, maybe my favorite one of the weekend, honestly. Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, because we have the best player in the NFL playing, naturally. It is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills going up against the Denver Broncos, and that's what makes this game dangerous because Buffalo still has the best player going in the league. The total is 46.5. We can see, unlike last week, the line still favors the Bills. Unless something changes between now and 72 hours, they will be at least slight favorites, I would think. Maybe a pick 'em going into Denver coming up on Saturday. Do you have an opinion or a lean on this game at all?
I mean, I'm back in Buffalo. And what this game ultimately boils down to here, Craig, is simply how much can the Broncos get Josh Allen on the ground? If you look at some of their losses this year in Buffalo, they were sacked 8 times by Houston, lost the game. 5 times by the Eagles, lost the games. 4 times by the Falcons, lost the game. Ultimately, if they can get Josh Allen on the ground, they're going to have a ton of success, keep the Bills in 3rd and long, and make it very difficult. If for whatever reason they can't get him on the ground, well, Allen should have his way. Remember, this is a Broncos team that had the most sacks in the league this year in the NFL, so they're really good at getting to the quarterback. They haven't faced any quarterback like Josh Allen this year. The other side of the ball is really, the other question mark here because, yes, Denver took advantage of bad defenses and was able to score, 30 against the Giants, 40 against some of these other, the Cowboys, some of these other bad defenses that are out there. The Bills' defense is leaky, but if they can keep themselves in the game, then, and they don't give up too many big plays, ultimately the scenario exists where if you give Josh Allen the ball, in the final 2 minutes or close, final 4 minutes to go down the field and score, the game tying or game winning touchdown, that's the situation that Buffalo backers want. And if you can stop Josh Allen, then you deserve to win the game. Most teams haven't been able to figure out how to do that. And so, if Buffalo's defense gets one critical stop in the 4th quarter that they need, that's likely enough for them to win the game.
Yeah, I would agree. And great analysis there. And by the way, in terms of touchdown to interceptions, you're not going to get much better than the guys that we saw. 2 of them, one of them eliminated already in the playoffs. One of them didn't make it. And then we still have 2 alive, and Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford, 26-4. That's incredible. And certainly the Bills in the wildcard round last year had all the success, beating the Broncos 31-7. I would say that probably the Browns are a much better team than they were a year ago. Playing at altitude will help them, certainly. But again, hard to ignore the Bills having the best player going in the playoffs as well. Okay, so we saw this matchup a couple of weeks ago. It went right down to the wire. I probably expect the same thing to happen Sunday night or Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Great matchup for the 49ers as they go to Seattle and take on the Seahawks. But the Seahawks are rested, and the 49ers are banged up, Mark. Total 44.5. Just like last week, we've seen a line of 6 or more up against the 49ers. But as we watched last week's game play out, there was no point in that game where you thought the Eagles were going to blow out the 49ers. What do you make of this game on Saturday night?
Well, these 2 teams bookended the season against each other, right? It was the week 1 opener in Seattle that San Francisco won, and the final week game in San Fran that Seattle won. And if you look at those 2 games, Craig, they were actually like almost statistical mirrors of one another. In the week 1 win for San Francisco, they dominated in first downs, dominated on third downs, outgained them by over 150 yards in the game, and they held the ball for 60 minutes longer. Fast forward to the end of the regular season, Seattle was favored in all those categories. First downs, third downs, held onto the ball for 16 minutes, and outgained them by almost 200 yards in the game. So, I think you could expect a similar game script. It's a question of who can win it here. I would tell you that, Kyle Shanahan has not lost prior to the championship game as the coach of the 49ers in the postseason. He's won every wild card and every divisional playoff game. So if that's something that matters to you, give the coaching edge to the 49ers here. And somehow this mass unit of a team could probably pull off a win.
It would be crazy. If so, money line there, maybe not so bad. Plus 285 there. They split the meetings one apiece, and naturally, Brock Purdy had his highest passing total this season, over 400 yards. Wow. That head-to-head matchup. All right. Patriots -3 against the Houston Texans. And the Texans defense scored twice last week, Mark, and that's why their numbers were inflated. So I wonder, do they have another one in them this week? A third defensive touchdown in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs? I don't think I've ever seen that. Boy, tenuous spot here for New England coming up this weekend.
When you play the Texans, it's as simple as race to 20. If you get to 20 before the Texans will, you're going to beat them because their offense can't play catch up. But if they get to 21st, their defense is good enough to shut you down. And that's ultimately what happens here. I mean, I just don't trust the Texans offense against a very competent defense that can stop the run like New England. CJ Stroud to beat you. I like the Patriots here.
All right, Mark, thanks again. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll catch up again soon. Thanks. Up next, the biggest story in golf. Brooks Koepka headed back to the PGA Tour. We got an event to preview, so let's bring in Brady Cannon of SportsGrid when we return next. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Don't go away.
It's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
OK Dubs has to go back to his roots. I'm not a Jets fan, I'm not a Giants fan, and neither one of those teams even play in New York. But I'm a New Yorker through and through, despite where my mail gets sent. And I will not stand for the Jets to be dragged through the mud in this way. Not gonna happen. So Dante Moore, if you do leave, you should be so lucky to fly the plane.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Man, what a fun time of the year where we get to start talking about the PGA Tour and bringing in Brady Cannon for his picks. And, you know, Brady last year, he comes on the show and he's like, keep an eye on this guy like $1 billion to 1. And look, full transparency, here's sort of what would happen if I would say last year. So some of these guys you can't even bet like their finishing spot because they're just like not even on the board. So I think Brady hit like 1 or 2, but really what would keep happening, Brady, is that you would be giving us these like 50 to 1s and they would like be right there to win in the end. Like you would like the final day, and then something would come up short. I have a feeling you're gonna hit a really, really big one this year because you were close on so many. Like I want to say like 3 or 4 different times on the PGA Tour, a monster dog almost came in.
Yeah, and great to be back here with golf season, and you love to have this confluence of, the college football national championship, golf getting underway, the NFL heading towards its crescendo, and the Super Bowl and the playoffs. Yeah, so this is really good stuff. College basketball obviously coming to the forefront. We nailed a couple. I hit. It was at Torrey Pines last year for the Farmers. We hit Harris English at 110-1. That was a beauty.
What it was, yeah.
But you're right, and that's a good sign. I mean, if you've got guys finishing in the top 5 and you've got a guy in contention every Sunday, certainly that's fun. That's part of the sweat. And then eventually those typically turn into victories. And we did have a handful of them last year. We closed out strong with Tommy Fleetwood at the Tour Championship and then Hideki Matsuyama in the Bahamas back in December. We hit Matsuyama at the Century to begin the season last year. And the Century was canceled this year, unfortunately, because of drought conditions in the Maui area. So we start here at the Sony, and let's try and start the year with another winner.
All right, before we get to the odds for the Sony this week, let's talk about the big story in sports and really in golf, where we've seen the first chip fall, as they say. Brooks Koepka, who was fantastic on the PGA Tour and had good success, by the way, on the Live Golf Tour. I don't want to disparage him in any way, has decided to return to the PGA Tour. There are some restrictions. He's got to make some charitable donations. He's not eligible for some payouts. Brady, you know this better than me. Why do you think it's him? And why do you think the choice that he made was now? Because as far as I can see here, Live Golf is rolling on.
Well, they are, but they just took an awfully big hit. And it opens the window for other guys like John Rahm and, Cameron Smith and maybe Tyrrell Hatton. I don't know. I really believe there's probably only 3 or 4 guys that the PGA Tour really cares about having back, to be honest with you. I was kind of looking at the lineup yesterday, and I counted 12 guys in total that maybe would make a difference, but probably really only about 3 or 4. DeChambeau, of course, being one of those. I think the penalties that they outlined for Koepka are fantastic. I think it's perfect. It is punitive, but it's fair. You've got to levy some sort of fine, so to speak, for defecting, and I think they've done a wonderful job of being equitable and punishing him a bit at the same time. I think Brooks ultimately wants to be playing with the best. And I think, it's awful attractive when you get offered hundreds of millions of dollars to go play on the other side of the world, so to speak. And we understand that. But, I think eventually it kind of wears off. And I think it's already starting to wear off on John Rahm, and it did with Koepka. And he wants to be, the deal with Koepka, the most important thing has always been the major championships. And he's qualified for those for a few more years. But I think he wants to get back in the mix here. And, money can't buy you love, right? So it was fun while it lasted. But this could be the beginning of the end. You look at the Live, who's on the Live circuit these days. It looks like an old man's tour, Craig.
Yeah,
Lee Westwood, Graham McDowell, Phil Mickelson.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of becoming the middle ground between
Senior
the
Tour?
Champions Tour, right? The PGA and the Champions Tour. So anyway, I'm really thrilled to have him back, and no better place for him to debut than Torrey Pines at the Farmers Insurance. So I'm excited for that.
I remember those days of Chichi Rodriguez out there on the Senior Tour, and maybe you're right. Maybe that's sort of what it's coming to. Okay, so the Sony Open has some names we know. Obviously, look, the big one is next week at the American Express, and we'll talk about that. But we got a little appetizer to get Brady ready for his picks this year. Russell Henley is the current favorite. You all know him. Hideki Matsuyama, certainly. Now JJ Spawn has become a guy on the PGA Tour after the fantastic year that he had last year. Morikawa's 19-1. Ben Griffin 19-1 as well. Siwoo Kim 20-1. Robert McIntyre feel like he let me down a few times last year. I feel like Robert McIntyre did. I can't remember. Every year is different. So Let's go, Brady. Give us any ideas you have this week. We won't hold it against you. We'll put the pressure on you for next week.
Well, yeah, next week that guy, Mr. Scheffler, returns to action, and I have a feeling he's going to be tough to beat once again in 2026. But yeah, very good field here with some of the top players in the world. As far as the short shots, I landed on Ben Griffin. You know, his last 6 tournaments to close out the year, he did not finish worse than 12th. And he closed just a couple of months ago with a win at Tiger's event down in Mexico. And you talk about a coming out party for JJ Spawn. Same thing for Ben Griffin, you know, on the Ryder Cup team. And what I really like is he won at Colonial. I think there's a lot of crossover connection with Colonial and YLA Country Club here, the home of the Sony Open. We've seen a lot of guys have similar success at both golf courses. So I think he checks a lot of boxes here. Played him as far as the shorter shots, went down a little bit deeper to Maverick McNeely. The nappy factor, Craig. Maverick McNeely just became a father. And sometimes when you have a new child, it gives you a sense of calm and also refocuses you that you have to understand that you have to provide for the family. We've seen this phenomenon translate to success on the PGA Tour before. And of course, he's a good player. So I think McNeely makes some sense. And then a couple of longer shots, Chris Kirk, who's done marvelous work here. He's also won at Colonial in the past. And then a long bomb, 110 to 1 with the Irishman, Seamus Power. So we'll see if we can start the year with somebody that gets home on the leaderboard this week at the Sony.
Seamus Power. Man, if he wins that one, we're bringing Brady on for like 10 segments next week. Thanks again, Brady. Appreciate it. We'll be right
You got
back.
it. Thank you, guys.
It's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Nanji, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
OK Dubs has to go back to his roots. I'm not a Jets fan, I'm not a Giants fan, and neither one of those teams even play in New York. But I'm a New Yorker through and through, despite where my mail gets sent. And I will not stand for the Jets to be dragged through the mud in this way. Not gonna happen. So Dante Moore, if you do leave, you should be so lucky to fly the plane.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Maybe the fact was that the kicker just blew a 44-yard field goal. Now, by the way, I feel horrible for this kid, Tyler Loop, who made every single field goal this season 44 yards or less. But the extra point that was missed just before that by Chris Boswell was the only extra point that he missed all season long. So did they bless that same holy water when Boswell missed the extra point? Come on, guys. Let's get it.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
The Steelers get their touchdown, and they miss the extra point. It was Lamar Jackson who made the plays to get the Ravens into what should have been easy field goal territory. So explain to me how in the world we can look at last night's game as, well, there you go, can't trust Lamar Jackson.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Big change in Kansas City. We're going to jump into that. Could affect some offensive numbers for some baseball players this season. Also, quarterback Ty Simpson makes his final decision on his future, and Giannis's future gets a little bit murkier after some things last night. Time now for some last licks. Okay, it's getting a little uglier for Giannis in Milwaukee. I don't know if he's going to get traded or not, but this is not something you generally see. So Bucks lost again. They're having a bad season, even with Giannis. May not even make the play-in game or the playoffs. Who knows? Still a long way to go. But Giannis and the Bucks have been getting booed by the home fans. So much so that after a dunk in the game last night, Giannis put like 2 thumbs down and started booing back to the fans. Wow, never see that from a superstar, but that is indeed what happened. You can find the clip on YouTube. What we can play for you is Giannis after the game talking about taking a verbal beating from the fans, something he's not used to, but doesn't seem to mind it.
Were you kind of gesturing or booing back, like sarcastically after
No, I was
that
definitely
one?
booing back. When I get booed, I boo back. I've been doing all season. You guys haven't been with me on the road. Whenever I get booed, I boo back.
No, but this is home. I mean, do you
It
have
doesn't
a
matter.
message?
I don't. It doesn't matter. No, it does not matter. It doesn't matter. I play basketball for my teammates. I play basketball for myself and my family. When people don't believe in me, I don't tend to be with them. I tend to be against them. I tend to do what I'm here to do, what I'm good at, right? I think I'm like a maverick. I've always been that way. So it won't change now. It doesn't matter if I'm at home or away. But yeah, I've never been a part of something like that before, and I don't think it's fair. I don't. But everybody has the opinion to do what they want to do. I'm not going to tell them what to do and how they act when we don't play hard or when we lose games or where we not where we're supposed to be. And I don't think anybody has the right to tell me how I should act on the basketball court after I've been here 13 years, and I'm basically the all-time leader in everything.
So I don't know if this Giannis situation comes to an end in a good way. And by the way, the Bucks winning a championship with Giannis sort of incredible. Even winning a championship in general in that market, if they lose him, I don't know how they'll ever get somebody of that magnitude again. Okay, one of the best college football quarterbacks has decided to enter the NFL draft. Despite NIL offers for Ty Simpson, and yes, Ty Simpson may not be the best or second best quarterback in the NFL draft, but guess what? These guys all go in the first round, if you haven't noticed, by the time the draft comes in April and May. Simpson told teams, how about this? Told college football teams at Miami and Ole Miss, he went into specifics with this reporter, $4 million in NIL money. This is a first, never saw this before. And then the Hurricanes upped it to $6.5 million. Play with them next year. So he said, quote, Miami was like, all right, we're moving on. And then they lost out on Sam Levitt and came back with that big number of 6.5, Simpson said. And then Ole Miss called and said that they could match it as well. So from crazy, from what Ty Simpson's knowledge is and the information that we've been given here, I think it is fair to say, I'm going to guess that he's going to do a lot better in the upcoming NFL draft. Now, will he be the first pick in the draft? Obviously, it's going to be Fernando Mendoza. Will he be drafted ahead of Moore of Oregon? Probably not. And then when you think about it, Mississippi's quarterback, I don't think he'll go ahead of him either. So he's probably the 4th best quarterback coming out, which means he's a first-round pick. The upcoming NFL draft is going to get way more than that $6.5 million. Good choice for Ty. Finally, the Kansas City Royals have decided enough is enough. We haven't seen a lot of offense from them through the years. Maybe Bobby Witt and pretty much nothing. They're bringing in the fences. This is what teams do when they want to generate more power. They're bringing them down a little bit, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And also, the gaps are in left and right field are going to come in from 387 to 379 feet. It also will add 230 new seats. What does it mean? For those of you who bet on baseball, pay attention to what's going on in Kansas City, because I think this is going to lead to some more offense. And the people who analyze that more closely could probably tell you more about that. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks to our great guests, Carlin Gay, Sam McQuillan, Simon Applebaum, Mark Zinno, and Brady Cannon. As a reminder, we're back on this show tomorrow with our next edition of NewsWire. We're going to have Dan Fates, who covers the Bills for ABC in Buffalo. He's going to preview the game coming up this weekend between the Bills and the Denver Broncos. That's right, man. I can't get these games in Broncos. What, didn't I say that? I got that. Denver Broncos. Thanks again to Luke for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. We're off and running here on this Wednesday. Hope you enjoy the rest of the programming here on SportsGrid, getting you ready for the NBA and NHL tonight. I'll see you back here for our next edition of NewsWire. That's Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern, exclusively here on SportsGrid. Have a great rest of your day and night. I will see you tomorrow afternoon.